Hello guys, this is your friend. We are back with a new fanfic. Which is, what if Naruto walked the line of darkness, Anko and Kurenai in a forbidden bond, Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic, then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And no, start a new fanfic. Flashback. He had arrived in training ground 7 at their usual meeting time as usual. After waiting for a few hours, their sensei finally arrived. After they listened to his lame excuse for the day, they took a D-ranked mission. How is pulling weeds a mission? Once they had finished, they did an hour of teamwork exercise. Well, Naruto tried to work with them. All he received was insults and punches to the head. Alright, that's enough training for the day, spoke their so-called sensei. Kakashi-sensei, when are we going to learn a jutsu or take a real mission? Asked Naruto. Sorry Naruto, but you're not ready for either. He spoke, never looking up from his book. You need to increase your chakra. How? He insisted. You haven't taught us how. You'll figure it out. Try asking Sasuke or Sakura, they have good chakra control. He answered, or didn't, before he shunshined away. He turned to look toward his team in hopes of help. Unfortunately, they were preoccupied. Sasuke-kun, would you like to go on a date? Asked Sakura. No, he answered before walking away to brood more. I'll go on that date with you, Sakura-chan, Naruto tried. His response was a punch in the head. Why would I go on a date with you, Naruto baka? Turning back, she ran after the Uchiha. Wait, he called, stopping her. Do you think you could help me with my chakra control? Why should I help you? She asked. It wouldn't do a doby like you any good. You were a failure in the academy and you'll be a failure as a ninja. With that, she walked off, leaving a hurt Naruto. Flashback end. As the memories continued to replay in his head, he came upon his destination. It was one of his favorite spots, a safe haven. It was one of the few he had away from the hateful villagers. It had a waterfall that flowed into a river that reached his knees. He would often fish here when he couldn't afford Ichiraku ramen. There was an empty field with a bit of wildlife. The field also held an array of plants and berries he liked ate. His favorite part was the large and deep cave behind the waterfall. The water came inside, making a little pool. The rest was a dry place to rest. He would often hide or camp here when he needed or wanted to. It was partly because of this place he hadn't starved. Why he had shelter when his home was wrecked by villagers. A home from home. He even had a small family here. Hey, I'm here, he called. As soon as the words left his mouth, he felt 4 light impacts to his chest. They didn't hurt, but it was enough to knock him over. As he tried to straighten himself out, he felt as they crawled around inside his jumpsuit. He quickly pulled them out and set them down. Not even a hello before you go looking for treats? He asked in mock hurt. When they lowered their heads in shame, he smirked. Reaching into his pocket, he pulled out a few pieces of dried fish. Once they laid eyes on it, they dove for it. He sighed happily as he watched them eat. Foxes. It was ironic that they were his closest family. After the Kyuubi attack, foxes were illegal in Konoha. Most people would just kill them out of spite. That made it hard for them to survive since the villagers hated them. Not him. He happily did his best to help take care of them since they were alike. Hated for something they had no control over. The oldest female was the mother. Her name was Aki for her constant autumn coat. The oldest male was the father. His name was Jin for the patch of silver on his head. It was more pronounced thanks to his black fur. The youngest son took after the father. His fur was black with a silver collar. That's how he got the name Eriko. The older sister was an enigma. She didn't take after either parent. Her fur was a constant snow white. He decided to call her Midori thanks to her grass-green eyes. He then undressed as he laid himself into the stream. Bracing his feet into rocks, he closed his eyes and relaxed. This way he wouldn't float off but stayed relaxed. He felt the foxes lay down beside him. He loved the flow of the water on his body. The feel of nature to his senses. The peace of seclusion. It was here that he could let his mask drop. It's right over here, girls. came an unfamiliar female call that was heading toward him. That's just not fair, he growled. He quickly grabbed his clothes and started putting them on. Once Naruto was dressed, he moved deeper into the cave with the foxes. It was one of the problems with being here. The place was practically boxed off. Once inside, there was only exit. Unfortunately, one way was occupied by whoever they were. He didn't want to have a run-in with whoever they were. Something told him they were ninja. He was always good at telling who was a civilian or not. These were definitely not. He sat and waited. See, I told you, this entire place is great. And you're sure this place is away from perverted eyes? Positive. I'll even have the triplets scout the area while we're here. Relax, Nai-chan. If there are any perverts, we'll give them the beating of a lifetime. That doesn't stop them, and I think some are enjoying it. Okay. There are 4 women, most likely kunoichi. Then there are the triplets, maybe pets. He decided to move further into the cave. He really didn't want to be seen. Unfortunately, our blonde ninja forgot his bright attire. Hey, who's there? Show yourself. What's wrong, Anko? Stay calm. Maybe they didn't see me. I saw a hideously orange color. I think someone's in there. Darn it. Come on out. Hana think the triplets can drag them out. No need, he called. He took a deep breath and allowed his mask to reform as he motioned for the foxes to hide. Then slowly and cautiously he made his way out. As he stepped out, he saw who caught him. Who are you, Gaki? Asked the one closest. Naruto Uzumaki, future Hokage. Spoke on instinct. And you are? I'm the single Anko Mitarashi, the first spoke, snake mistress of Konoha. I'm Yugao Azuki Kenjutsu mistress of Konoha, came the second. I'm Kurenai Yuhi, the now named Anko seemed to urge her for more, Genjutsu mistress of Konoha, she continued with a sigh. I'm Hana Inuzuka, started the last, the second hound princess of Konoha. Yugao was a woman with purple, violet hair that came to her waist and chocolate brown eyes. She seemed to be wearing reddish purple lipstick. She was wearing standard Anbu clothing. Something about her seems familiar. Kurenai had long, black wavy, shoulder-length hair. She seemed to be wearing an outfit that looked to be made of bandages. Her hand and upper thighs were wrapped in the same material. Her eyes were what stood out the most to Naruto. They were an odd but truly beautiful shade of red. She seems familiar as well. Anko had light brown, pupil-less eyes. Her hair was black with a tint of violet, styled in a short, wild ponytail. She was wearing a tan trench coat and a mesh bodysuit under it. Over it was a dark orange mini skirt. Never seen her before. Hana had long brown in a ponytail with 2 locks hanging in front of her face. Her eyes were an average black. She had a light shade of pink-red lipstick and Inuzuka markings. She was wearing a beige medic uniform. Those markings mean that she's related to Kiba. Their headbands proved what he feared. They were all kunoichi. What are you doing here? Are you spying on us? Asked Yugao. He didn't answer. How about we play with him? Offered Anko. We won't go all out, just teach him a lesson for what he's done. Anko. He's just a genin. Stated Yugao. If he doesn't learn his lesson now, he could grow to be worse than Jiraiya. Stated Kurenai. None of them could deny that. Besides, he'll just heal. The truth was she didn't care about that. She just wanted the boy to suffer for what he did. Tell your friends to come out as well. Ordered Hana. What friends? I'm here alone. He lied. My companions here say they smell others, stated Hana. Bring them put or they'll be dragged out. Naruto stood defiantly. Just do it, Hana. Called Anko. The Gaki is too stubborn to listen. With just a gesture, one of the triplets were making their way toward the cave entrance. Not wanting his friends hurt, Naruto stood in front of the approaching canine. He glared at the dog with such intensity that it actually started to whimper. After a few more seconds, he ran back behind Hana and his siblings. Anko, seeing the distraction, decided to have a little fun. She threw a kunai. Thanks to all of his years of living through the hate of Konoha, Naruto gained an extra sense. It was one that warned him of danger. It was warning him now. Ducking his head, he avoided the kunai. As he stood right, he felt slender but powerful arms wrap around his neck, holding his head still. Struggle as he might, he couldn't get free. Hold him tight, Anko, he heard one of the women shout. The triplets will drag whoever's in there out. Wait, he begged. He didn't want his only friends to be hurt because of him. Don't hurt them. Them? Asked Kurenai. Go got them, boys, ordered Hana. As the triplets closed in on the entrance, Anko decided to have a little more fun. Whoever is in there is in for a world of pain. Leaning toward his ear, she whispered, right, Foxy-kun. At hearing the name, his blood ran cold. They know about Kyuubi. That's why they're here. It was replaced by boiling rage. Using what little chakra control he had, he directed it to his arms. With all the power he could muster, he pried Anko's arms open. He broke free. Spinning in a full 180, he kicked Anko in the stomach. The blow didn't harm her, but it was enough to stun her. To say the kunoichi and dogs were shocked would be an understatement. Anko was a Junin, a special Junin perhaps, but a Junin all the same. To see a mere genin force his way free was truly amazing. Putting his hands in a cross form, he shouted his signature technique. Shadow Clone Jutsu. At the name, 10 solid clones appeared. They took a protective stance in front of the cave. So the little Gaki wants to play, huh? Asked Anko. Well, let's play. Charging forward, Naruto threw 2 exploding tags toward the women. As they scattered to avoid the explosion, the clones charged. This is getting out of hand, spoke Yugao as she dodged another kunai. We have to restrain him. They nodded in agreement. Hey, Runt, Hana called. You're not the only with moves. Weaving her clan's hand signs, she called. Man, beast, clone. At the name, the brothers jumped to her side and went up in smoke. When they were visible, it was revealed that they took her form. After weaving more signs, they all dropped to all 4. Ninja art, beast mimicry. All 4's jutsu. They charged forward before jumping into the air. Multi-fang over fang. All 4 Hanas began to spin, taking a blurry, drill-alike form. The attacks then began to rotate around each other as they charged forward. They tore through the clones. Naruto saw the direction of the attack. They were heading toward the caves. He knew what he had to do. Thinking he would just jump out of the way, the Hanas pressed the attack. To her surprise, he only put his arms up to defend himself and stood defiantly. He'll move, she thought, as did the rest. He'll move. He'll jump away. Move already. He didn't. Move, you baka. Hana called, but he didn't, and it was too late to stop their attack. Each Hana hit Naruto full on. They tore through his clothes and his body. He fell to his knees bleeding. Once the attack ended, the real Hana turned to ask why he took the attack. Or at least she tried to. As soon as she turned, she saw a kunai fly past her, a kunai with a tag. Each Hana barely had enough time to cover themselves in a coat of chakra. It was enough to save them from the explosion. The blast knocked them each far back in a different direction. They transformed back and were unconscious before they hit the dirt. Naruto would have continued if it weren't for Anko. Striking shadow snakes. Multiple snakes ejected themselves from Anko's sleeve. Turning, he was able to see the attack, but not dodge. The snakes each coiled around his limb and various parts of his body. Each snake then latched onto Naruto with their fangs. He felt the burning sensation as the venom spread through his body. The poisons in these snakes aren't lethal, but they do cause great pain, stated Anko cheerfully. To her continued amazement, Naruto had more surprises. Using his very will and chakra, he moved his hands together. She herself added chakra to strengthen her technique, but it wasn't enough. Not when facing a host of a tailed beast. This Gaki has more chakra than even me. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Summoning 4 clones, he smirked. Kurenai Genjutsu, ordered Yugao. Now. Kurenai began weaving. They each drew a kunai and cut through the snakes, freeing the original. They gave a cry as they rushed forward. Anko drew another 2 kunai and took aim. Not know which was the real one, Anko threw them toward non-lethal spots. They both hit their mark. The first hit a clone, dispelling it. The second hit Naruto in his upper leg. It embedded itself deep, drawing blood. The pain was only intensified from the venom. Anko, cried Kurenai, you stopped my genjutsu before it set in. Oops, sorry about that, Nai-chan, apologized the sheepish snake mistress. He continued forward, not even losing speed, with only a limp and slight flinch to show he was hurt. The remaining two of them proceeded to henge into demon windmill shurikens. Looking at his opponents, he took aim. Need to get rid of the biggest threat. With a spin to build up momentum, he threw it with all his might. It flew past the snake mistress and the kenjutsu mistress. He was aiming for Kurenai. She had to admit, she was impressed. Naruto was holding his own, he even managed to take out Hana and the triplets. Turning her head, she let the giant weapon fly past her. She never noticed it graze her cheek. But it's not enough. The shadow windmill henge flew right past her, lodged itself into a tree. It dispelled itself a second after contact. Kurenai asked a hesitant Yugao, are you okay? In her confusion, she felt a warm moisture drip down her cheek. Bring her hand out. She felt the spot and pulled her hand back. There was a light stinging sensation. She looked at her hand. Blood. That henge. It was real. She stated in shock. A real illusion? That should be completely impossible. Even some of the greatest genjutsu users in the world can't make a real illusion. Naruto prepared the second shuriken. As he prepared to throw it, something clamped down and stopped his arm. Painfully. It caused him to drop and dispel his clone. Looking at what stopped him, he saw that one of the triplets had latched its fangs around his arm. He felt a second latch onto his one of legs. The final blow came from Hana herself. She tackled Naruto from behind, pinning him under her legs. She held a kunai to his throat, forcing him to be still. I've had enough of this, she snarled. We'll find out who you're hiding. As soon as the words left her mouth, the final brother stepped forward, out of the cave. What Naruto saw in the dog's mouth horrified him. It made his blood go cold in his very veins. It was the foxes. The dog was dragging their bodies out by their tails. No, no, he pleaded. This can't be happening, not them. No Aki, Jin, Eriko, Midori. When they didn't respond, his fear was taken, in its place he was given hatred. It was raw and uncontrolled hatred. It was so much that he even started to pull on chakra from the Kyuubi. This isn't good, the Kunoichi thought as one. They didn't know what to do as they watched the red chakra become visible. All they wanted to do was punish a pervert. Now things were truly out of hand. He knocked Hana and the two triplets off just by simply standing. There were burn marks on them as well from Kyuubi's corrosive chakra. He dashed toward the family of foxes. When the remaining triplet saw the approaching Naruto, it dropped the foxes and fled. As he knelt down to them, he calmed himself down. The Kyuubi's chakra began to disappear. He was angry, but he wasn't blind. He saw what had happened to Hana and her dogs. Come on guys, get up, he pleaded. He wanted his family to be okay. Come on, you guys are all I have. They didn't move, they all just laid there, unmoving and lifeless. He reached for them but pulled back when his blood fell on them. He didn't want to let Kyuubi's influence touch them. He turned his attentions back to his attackers. They flinched at the level of hate in his glare. He felt both his rage and Kyuubi's chakra return, with a vengeance. It was more potent. You could even see a fox head grin at them. Damn it, he's drawing on the fox and Hana is out, no choice. Everyone, we need to end this. No more holding back, spoke Kurenai, I need a distraction. Come on, Naruto shouted, I'll take you all on. Anko went first. Jumping high into one of the trees, she yelled. Multiple striking shadow snakes. As the name said, multiple snakes flew toward him, much more than the first time. However, they weren't aimed for him. They were aimed for the foxes. He rushed back to their side to take the blow. As the snakes hit dead on, it seemed that the masses of them consumed Naruto and the foxes. With a mighty roar, he sent out a shock wave of chakra. It tore through the mass of snakes, leaving only shreds behind. He stood under their falling parts, not losing an ounce of hate. Not even uttering a command or forming signs, a clone popped into existence. As soon as it formed, it became another windmill shuriken. Giving a mighty heave, he threw it toward Kurenai. She made to dodge it but didn't count on its angle. To her surprise, it turned as she did, cleaving her in half. "Kurenai!" cried Yugao in disbelief before schooling herself. "Your Anbu, so control yourself." "Yugao!" cried Hana. They could use some help now. Running forward, the Kenjutsu mistress attempted performed her namesake. As she came in range, she raised the weapon high in the air. She intended to knock him unconscious with her sheath. As she came into striking distance, Naruto made his move. Stretch his arm out, he grabbed her arm. Adding pressure to her wrist, he forced her to lower her sword, but she didn't drop it. But it was enough. Grabbing the sheath, he yanked it free. Holding the blade's sheath, he took a stance. He then started hacking away at her, or would have. Thanks to years of practice, she was ready. She was able to dodge or block every single strike. His stance and form are great, she thought, for an amateur. He must have a great teacher. If only she knew. Unfortunately, it was because of that experience that she did what she did. Out of pure instinct, she dropped back and lashed at him. She cut him across the eye, causing a short grunt, probably ruining it permanently. But it didn't stop him. He was too angry to feel any pain. Not that he would have anyway. He stopped suddenly. Something was holding him in place. Looking at his restraints, he saw vines. He struggled against them. He even hit them with the sheath, but they just carried him off the ground. Now he had no leverage. String bean bind illusion. Looking toward the one who named the attack, he saw a giant bean pod. As it opened, Kurenai stepped out. "This is a genjutsu from the Kurama clan. You won't be getting out that easily." "What are you doing?" asked an aged but powerful voice. "Release him." They turned to the source of the voice. Standing before them was the Hokage. And he was angry. Kurenai stepped forward. "Hokage-sama, she was cut off." "That was an order," he stated. She did as she was told. As soon as he was free, he charged Kurenai. With a powerful jab, he struck her in the stomach with the sheath. He continued charging, painfully pushing Kurenai along the dirt. Coming to a sudden stop, he drew the sheath back. Kurenai dropped to her knees, gasping in pain. Raising the sheath, he brought it down across her face. She was out cold as she hit the ground. He prepared another strike when he felt the familiar sensation of fangs biting into him. "We're done here, Gaki," stated Anko. Dropping the sheath, he grabbed two of the snake. With a might heave, he pulled Anko free from the tree, but he didn't stop there. He kept pulling, and with a spin he aimed her. She crashed face first into the downed Hana. Turning, he looked toward Yugao. "And then there was one," he stated coldly. "That won't be necessary, Naruto-kun." Turning to the voice, he saw a rush of red and white. Five-pronged seal. He felt an intense pain in his stomach where he had been struck. As the chakra faded, so did his consciousness. After removing the seal from Naruto, they stood outside of the hospital room. Inside was Naruto resting after the ordeal. The doctors had checked him over. They say he'll be up in the morning. He doesn't need this. He had allowed his surrogate grandchild the secret. Hiruzen was always aware of Naruto's comfort spot. It had kept him sustained, so he saw no reason he couldn't have it. It was out of the way, so Naruto had all the peace he could want or need. Until now, it was a good thing he made regular checkups on him. Of all the irresponsible and stupid, Harented. The four kunoichi stared at their village leader. They felt an immeasurable amount of shame from their action. "Do any of you have anything to say?" he asked. They each flinched at his cold tone. They were used to their kind and soft-spoken leader's warm tone. Not this cold tone that could cut even steel. "I have never felt this disappointed in you three," he stated, "you two especially." He pointed to Anko and Yugao. "What do you?" asked Hana, but was stopped by his glare. "Yugao, you used to protect him as his personal Anbu guard when he was a child, the only one that would." He whispered the last part. Why? It was true. All of the other Anbu would sit back and let the civilian and ninja beat on Naruto. On many occasions they would often join in. She was the only one that would save him, both on and off duty. "I am sorry, Hokage-sama," was all she could say. "You will turn in your mask. You are on suspended," he stated. "You will return to regular duty as a Junin." "I understand," she stated. "Anko, you know his pain." It was all he said, causing her to reach for her neck. It was all he needed to say. Anko wasn't very well liked in the village thanks to her sensei. She was used by him, blamed for all of his crimes. She even had a burden that she never wanted. Now here was one of the few people that accepted her, now utterly ashamed of her. She couldn't feel lower. "Hokage-sama, they would start but never finished. They were too ashamed. Anko, I was going pushed to let become a full Junin, but for now you will remain a special Junin," he stated. "Hana, you will be put on leave from the vet and your mother informed. Kurenai, you and your genin team will be receiving the most humiliating D-ranked missions for half pay." "How long, Hokage-sama?" asked Hana. The Hokage Hiruzen Sarutobi sighed. He leaned back as disappointment replaced the anger. The years became visible on the powerful leader. "Until Naruto forgives all four of you," he answered, not a moment sooner. "Understood, Hokage-sama," they stated in unison. "Be in my office first thing in the morning." With nothing left to say, he left via Shunshin. They all walked home to wait for him to regain consciousness. They needed to find a good way to apologize. They planned and worked the remainder of the day away. The next day Hiruzen made his way toward the hospital only to find Naruto asleep. He waited but not long. When he awoke he only asked, "Am I in heaven or hell?" "Neither. You're alive," Hiruzen answered. "How do you feel?" "Okay. Good, come with me." He grabbed Naruto Sunshine to his office. When Naruto looked around he found himself surrounded by his attackers. They expected him to shout out, attack, or even panic. He did none of these, he only looked at them. "Who ordered you to kill me?" he asked so offhandedly it scared them. "What?" asked Kurenai. "Don't play dumb, was it the shinobi or the civilian council?" he snapped. "Neither," Anko answered. "Does it happen so often that he can be so casual? I would be out for blood. So you all just hate me as well?" he simply stated. "No," shouted Yugao. "None of us have anything against you at all." "Right, girls?" they all agreed. "Then why?" he growled. "Why attack me? Why kill my only piece? Why kill them?" "The foxes?" asked Hana. "Yes," he answered blankly. "They aren't dead," she stated. "When I found them they were healed to near full health. I healed them the rest of the way," she added proudly. "Why?" he asked in shock. "How? We in Izuka don't hurt canine if we can avoid it. What she had her companions did to the foxes have shamed her so much. Her mother was so angry that she took the triplets from her until the Hokage's punishment was over. She even made Hana go back to help the foxes. That's how she knew they were alive." "She is telling the truth, Naruto," stated their leader. "It seems that when your blood fell onto them and has some healing properties, we will have to do some tests later. Please hear them out." "Thank you," he stated. "They are very important to me." When Hana took a discreet look at the Hokage, she asked with her eyes, "Did I do good?" The glare he gave was all the answer of a hell no. "We don't hate you, Naruto, not for your problem," stated Kurenai, hoping to avoid mentioning the Kyuubi. "That's why we're here to apologize for what we did. Furball has brought me a lot of hate, I'm used to it," he stated. "I do want to know why though." "We thought you were a pervert," stated Anko. "We have a history of being violent with perverts." "It's true," thought Hiruzen. "Some of those poor souls never made it home, however the ones that did never peaked again. Except Jiraiya. Not even Tsunade could stop him." "That's a relief and I agree wholeheartedly with your actions," stated Naruto cheerfully, shocking the Kunoichi. "Hey old man, can I go now?" The Kunoichi were shocked at the complete emotion change. Even more so that he had forgiven them. "Are you saying you forgive us?" asked Yugao. "Yep. Just like that. He forgave us just like that. He's so different from what the reports say," thought Kurenai before realization hit he's wearing a mask. She looked toward her friend Anko just like Anko. Wait, I have something for you. Reaching into this desk drawer, he pulled out a few sheets of paper. This is the deed to 3 acres of land, so you are now the sole owner of that area. He held up a second sheet. This is a copy just in case. Can you guess the center of those 3 acres? The happiness in Naruto was indescribable. He was being given the land that had been like a home to him and more, so much more. There was only one way he could properly thank his leader. Thank you, Hokage-sama, spoke Naruto through a deep bow. To say that Sarutobi was shocked was an understatement. Naruto, as in Naruto Uzumaki, had been respectful. He quickly recomposed himself before sadly asking, "This isn't going to happen often, is it?" "No way, old man," shouted Naruto, "just on special occasions." "It was good to dream," mused the leader, "but I'll get him to give me proper respect one of these days." The aged leader swore. "Well, I'll see you later." Opening a window, the blonde boy jumped out. His shouts of happiness could still be heard from inside. The leader turned back toward the kunoichi. "Well," he asked, "get out there and apologize," he ordered. But she was stopped by his glare. "Not good enough." His tone ran them right out of the window behind Naruto. "I meant through the door," he whispered to himself. Reaching into his desk, he pulled out his crystal ball. He would make sure that they properly did as he ordered. If it happens to get me out of doing paperwork, then it's that much better. Naruto couldn't be happier. Even the glares from the villagers couldn't bring him down. He finally had something that was his and couldn't be taken by the villagers. He saw his teammates come into view. Even their sensei was there. "I must be late." He decided to hide the deed to his sanctuary. Better safe than sorry, he thought as he placed it in his pouch. "Hello, Kakashi-sensei. Sakura-chan, Tem," he greeted. "Baka, you're late," she screeched as she punched Naruto in the head. "And don't talk about Sasuke-kun like that. That is starting to get annoying," he thought. "Why are you late, Dobi?" asked the Uchiha. "Because of you I couldn't get a mission." "You also missed team practice," spoke their sensei, never looking from his book. "It's not good for a shinobi to be late, Naruto. Now that is the pot calling the kettle black." "Answer me, Dobi," ordered the Uchiha. "If you must know, Tem." "Baka. Punch. I was in the hospital." "Well, since you missed the mission and training, the day is over." Probably tripped and fell on your own kunai," he spoke before walking off, missing Naruto's smirk. "I got into a fight with a few Junin," he retorted, much to Sasuke's ire. "There is no way a dead last like you could fight anyone," he snapped. "Yeah, Naruto Baka," screeched the howler monkey. "Only Sasuke-kun can fight a Junin, so stop lying." "Actually," a calm voice intoned, "he worked us over pretty good. Even if we were holding ourselves back." Was the Uchiha's reply. "Why are you four here?" asked Kakashi, putting his book away. He'd read in front of one or even two of them, but not all four. "We want the boy," stated Kurenai with a bit of an edge after seeing the book. "More training," spoke the Uchiha, stepping forward. "Perfect. Not you. We want Naruto-kun," stated Hana. "Why are they calling him kun? Why would you want that, Baka?" screeched Sakura. "Sasuke-kun is so much better in every way." "But he's mine." "Aw, shut her up before I go deaf," begged Hana. Her enhanced hearing were driving her crazy. "Let's go, Naruto-kun," called Yugao. "I demand to know what you want with that Dobi instead of me, an Uchiha, an elite," ordered an arrogant Uchiha. He froze when he felt a cold steel of a kunai against his neck. "You think you can give us demands, asked Anko as she cut his cheek and licked his blood before spitting it out. "Oh, that is the foulest blood I've ever tasted." "Hey, you get away from my Sasuke-kun," screeched Sakura, "and his blood is not foul, it's amazing." "I wonder what yours is like," she spoke, freezing Sakura. "Let's find out," she said, taking a threatening step forward. What? She looked around to see her sensei wouldn't help and Sasuke frozen. Only the Baka smirking inwardly. She put on her most pitiful face. "You wouldn't let them hurt me, would you Naruto-kun? He only stared at her. Save me already, you baka. Tell these hussies to get lost. Please leave Sasuke and Sakura alone. Kakashi finally spoke. I need my best students in full health. He said, ignoring Naruto's feelings. Fine, sighed a mock-depressed Anko, but I'll get her blood. She vowed to herself. Yugao grabbed onto Naruto and the four kunoichi shunshined away. They arrived inside an empty training area. Whoa, what was that, can you teach me? He asked. The kunoichi stared at him. Even through his mask they could see he wanted to learn. A kid will always be a kid. Drop the mask, Gaki, ordered Anko. Anko, that's. Yugao started. I'll drop mine if you drop yours. He stated, gaining a shocked glare from Anko. Not many could see through hers but her friends and those with a similar mask. Naruto-kun, we as in Anko, Yugao, Hana and I feel awful about yesterday. Kurenai motioned to each, so we want to make it up to you, each of us. If it's out of pity then save it, he stated coldly. I don't need pity from anyone. It's not Gaki, stated Anko, we don't do anything out of pity. That earned her a smile, a real smile. Where shall we? Hana was cut off by a deep rumble sound. It seemed to echo from Naruto and cause him to shake. Was that your stomach? Anko asked in disbelief. Naruto had actually blushed from it. Well, I haven't eaten since yesterday. He answered sheepishly. How about buying me some food? He missed Anko's smirk. Here is a perfect chance for me to pay him off. I'll be a full Junin in no time. Well, Gaki, if you're hungry, let me introduce you to the greatest food ever made. She said with stars in her eyes. But I already know about ramen. Ramen? I'm talking about dango. Her mouth watered, the food of the gods. Ramen is the broth of truth and the noodles of hope. You poor misguided soul, she said with a shake of his head. Reaching into her trench coat, she pulled out a hissing snake. Allow me to convert you with pain. The three remained kunoichi watched in amusement as they went back and forth. They were a bit upset at the fact that Anko took the first chance of forgiveness. But the show mostly made up for it. They decided to stop things before they escalated to another brawl. Anko put the snake away. Naruto, no clones. Ordered Yugao. How about we eat the ramen? Offered Kurenai, receiving a betrayed glare from Anko. We eat dango so often, we need a change. She then gained a mischievous smile. You did say you were paying. To Ichiraku, shouted Naruto, dragging the four kunoichi. 18 bowls of ramen later, Anko was crying over her wallet. He's still going, she mentally shouted. Where is he putting it all? It also didn't help that she was paying for her friends as well. Yep, another bowl, Nei-chan. He froze when he saw the look in her eyes. The crazy snake lady is paying. Let me guess, you offered to pay for the whole meal, didn't you? Asked Ayame, the ramen cook's daughter. Yes, she answered, ignoring the snake lady name. Naru-chan, you aren't going to break this nice lady's wallet, are you? He froze at the accusation. Crap, I've been found out. As the sweat poured down, he remained silent. No, nothing like that at all. That's good to hear. Tsuki spoke in his usual cheerful tone. It's good to see him with some friends and such beautiful ones at that. He eyed Naruto. I'd hate to ban him for being ungentlemanly. It's okay. Gaki here earned it, grinned Anko, leaning her impressive bust onto his head. Surely Naruto-kun brings team at least? Asked Hana, noticing him tense. Naruto-kun, huh? When did my number one customer become a player? Tsuki asked, ignoring the question. It's not like that. They're just treating me as an apology for a misunderstanding, he answered. What happened? He asked, interested. We accused him without any evidence and were punished for it. Yugao answered, causing the four kunoichi to away ashamed. How would you ladies like to know a secret about Naru-chan's whiskers? Ayame asked in a mischievous way. This gained the interest of all the kunoichi. No, Nei-chan, he begged. Just give them a rub. Spoke Tsuki before walking into the back, ignoring Naruto's call of traitor. Wait, if you don't do it, I'll pay for my own meal. He pleaded. Not happening, Gaki. Hana, hold him down. Anko ordered sadistically. Wait, Anko, I think you should take him up on that, reasoned Hana. Just look at how much he ate. As she looked at the piles of ramen bowls, her wallet started to feel very small. He had somehow eaten another 19 bowls. When did you? How did you? She looked him in the eyes. Why? You shouldn't turn your back on me, he chided. Remember, I'm the prankster from hell, for a reason. Fine then, she growled, pay for your own meal. Look like I'll be a special Junin for a little longer. After an extra 2 bowls, Naruto paid for himself and the kunoichi. Kurenai's turn. Since you are a genin, we've decided to take you shopping for proper clothes. A real shinobi would never be caught dead in that monstrosity. They heard him mumble something under his voice. Could you please speak up? We can't hear you. Yugao requested. It's all the villagers let me buy. He repeated. They either sell me out of date or ruin stuff for over double the price, usually both. Anko lowered her head in understanding. She went through the same thing when her sensei left the village. No one wanted to do business for the snake whore. His mask jumped back on. It's not all bad, I actually like orange. I know a place that will sell to you. It's where I persuaded Anko to go. It's a shinobi only store, so you can get clothes and weapons, but not food or household items. Spoke Kurenai. Where is it? What's it called? Can you show me? He asked almost desperately. Come on. Grabbing his arms, she shunshined them away. They reappeared in front of the shop. It was a wide 1-story building with several wide windows. A symbol of a Chinese dragon coiling around a leaf sat on the center of the roof. There was one thing that really caught Naruto's attention. One of the windows were boarded, and it looked as if had been boarded several times. This is the leaf dragon, stated Anko. You can get anything for a shinobi here or have it custom made. Be it clothes and weapons to fighting styles and low mid-level jutsu. Walking inside, they were greeted by the owner standing behind a counter. He was a tall man with strong-looking hands and arms. He seemed to be going gray but gave off the power of a man in his prime. He watched each customer with a calculative eye. There was a long scar running down his cheek. A new customer, huh? He asked. Who are you and what can I get you? Cough demon, cough brat, one of the customer hinted not too subtly. Instantly Naruto turned to leave but was stopped by a hand on his shoulder. Surprisingly, it wasn't from either of the kunoichi. The hand was from the owner. Excuse me a second, sir. He spoke kindly. This is going to be good, giggled Anko. The owner calmly reached over the counter to the one that had broken the third's law. Grabbing him by the scruff of his neck, he hurled the man out the boarded window. Reaching under his counter, he easily pulled out a large twin-headed axe. Does anyone else want to insult my customer? He asked menacingly. I have plenty of windows. Silence. No one was crazy enough to say anything. A few people did leave quietly. They'll be back, they always come back. He ran one of the best shinobi stores in the village. Naruto, this is Daiki, he did the same for me the first day. Spoke Anko. Perfect shot. Doesn't look like it, spoke Hana. You missed the center. Wasn't aiming for the center, there was a rusty nail sticking out. He grinned. Like I said, gloated Anko, perfect shot. Now what can I get you? He asked Naruto. Naruto was in a state of shock. Not only was this man allowing him to shop here, he had protected him. We want to get rid of this, she motioned to his jumpsuit, and make him look like a proper shinobi. But leave some orange, he seems to like it. All right, kid. He spoke, strip and spread, he ordered in a serious but slightly dark and sadistic tone. What? Cried Naruto, ready to jump out the newly opened window. Wait, Naruto, shouted Yugao over Daiki and Anko's laughter. I need to take proper measurements, he said after calming down from his laughing fit. Your jumpsuit is too bulky. That's just how he pranks new customers, spoke Kurenai before sending him a glare, and speaks to his longtime customers. You think you would have learned after all of the people you've run off or the kunoichi who've attacked you? Chastised Hana. This means war. spoke Naruto low and sinisterly. He was the king of all pranksters in Konoha. He would not be a prank victim without retribution. No one pranks the prankster from hell and gets away with it. Now Daiki paled. He had heard how Naruto pranked people for revenge. They would always be remembered for their high degree of humiliation. No one shakes a bee's nest without getting stung, he thought. Wait, I'm sure we can reach an agreement. Daiki spoke, sweating heavily. I'm listening. I have an elite set of training weights in the back. He hurried. They only need chakra so you won't have to take them off during battle. He explained. They're yours, for half off. I need to eat too. Naruto's mouth was watering at the prospect of those training weights. He could train at all times while doing the simplest of tasks. I'll get stronger in no time, believe it. Deal? He spoke with his best poker face. As Naruto had his measurements taken, a thought occurred to him. It had been bugging him since they had picked him up from his team. They had given him an answer, but now he wanted the whole truth. Once the measurements were finished, Daiki went to the back. He chose that moment to ask. Why are you all doing this for me? He asked. I told you that I forgave each of you in the old man's office, so I want the real reason. We told you. You're lying. He stated. I know when I'm being lied to. We felt sorry for you, Anko answered before mentally kicking herself. It was half true, but if he is anything like me, he'll. Not even getting a chance to finish her thought, he starts speaking. Pity. You did this all out of pity. He was already walking put the door before he was pulled back. Naruto, I think you should know the whole truth, stated Yugao. They told him everything. How the third Hokage ordered an apology. How he demoted them until was fulfilled. Everything. I see, he stated calmly. I'll tell him I forgive you and you can go back to your lives. You won't have to bother with me again, he whispered the last part sadly. No, stated Anko. What? He asked, confused. Isn't this what they want? I said no, she repeated. I am going to apologize properly. Tell me what you want. You don't need to, he stated. I said tell me, she hissed. Do you want money? Jutsus? Do you want someone dead? She thought. Do you want me to sleep with you? No, maybe and no, he stated. I don't want you to do something out of. He was stopped by a hard slap across the face. Daiki, who had returned, thought that will leave a mark. He had no idea what was happening, he just knew it would be best to stay out of sight. You asked me to drop my mask, right? Well, here, she stated, look at me. He did, he looked her in the eyes. He saw everything, her pain and regret. There was the fear that it would never end. It was all being held on a small line of hope. Your eyes are just like mine, he stated. Yeah, she admitted, just not as intense as yours. Not far behind. Naruto, I ask you again, what do you want? He knew what he wanted. It's something he had been denied since the academy. Do you all feel this way? He asked, receiving a yes from them. Train me in your arts, so that I can be powerful. That's all, Gaki. She asked. We can get plenty of jutsu scrolls for you. No, I want you all to train me, not buy me off. Can you do that? He asked. Do this for me and we're even. If not, I'll still tell the old man I forgive you. There aren't many ninjutsu or taijutsu we can teach you. Spoke Yugao. I know, he said. I want to be trained by you in all of your arts. The kunoichi looked at each other. There was someone who wanted to learn their skills from them. He was even offering them a way out if they decided not to. What about your sensei? Asked Yugao. He must have taught you something. My sensei hasn't taught me anything. All he does is go on and on about teamwork and needing better chakra control, which he hasn't taught me, then focuses on the Uchiha. They frowned at the obvious favoritism. He hadn't even seemed to care that they were taking Naruto. They shared a smile. He had shown great potential in their scuffle. We've warned you that we couldn't teach you a lot of flashy jutsu. Hana warned. If we do this, you have to give us full commitment. The minute you start slacking, we stop and are even. Deal? He answered, but I have one request. Depends. We keep this secret from everyone on my team. Deal. They gave Naruto an encouraging smile. It was quickly replaced by a look of true sadistic pleasure. Well then, Naruto, welcome to hell. That concludes today's training and puts another mission under your belts, spoke Kakashi. You've all improved, but Naruto, you need to. I know, increase my chakra control. Naruto cut off with a drawl before smirking. I've got the feeling it'll be getting much better soon. Baka, screeched the pink harpy, show sensei more respect. She rolled up her sleeve as if to look intimidating. To her and everyone else's surprise, he just looked bored. Are we done, sensei? He asked, still bored. I need to go. Yes, he answered, never looking from his book. As Naruto turned to leave, he heard the arrogant voice of the Uchiha. What does Adobe like you need to do? He too was cut off. Hang around those whores of yours. Shut it, Tem. He snapped. And don't call them whores, they're better than any woman you'll ever get, if any, the way you turn down your fangirls. Naruto, you need to be more respectful of your teammates. Spoke Kakashi into his book. Yeah, you should know your better, Zen. I can't stand this. Goodbye, cruel world. Naruto shouted. Let boss deal with them on his own. Grabbing a kunai, he impaled himself. He just couldn't deal with them any longer. He went up in smoke. A shadow clone, they thought, since when? Naruto was excited. Today was the day that things changed. It was the day that he started getting proper training with his new senseis. He had gone to the Hokage and told him that he had forgiven the kunoichi. After a few minutes of discussing everything, he agreed to Naruto's terms. They had decided to train him in rotations so that they could keep up their duties. He would train with Anko and Yugao, then Hana and Kurenai. The only real downside was he had to wait for Daiki to make his cloths since they were custom made. They'd take a while to be done. Until then, it's just you and me jumpsuit. The second and most obvious was his team. They made my clone kill itself. An upside to that was that he had been training all day. He was wearing the weights that Daiki had sold him. They were 100 pounds on each limb, and chasing that cat was a great workout with them. I just couldn't stand that Uchiha always trying to be better. Time for my real training, he stated to himself, and then I could get a few bowls of ramen. Now here he was at his training ground on his land toward. He loved how that sounded. He looked around and saw the open field. The only one there was the foxes, who were playing with the foxes. Where are they, though I know they aren't like Kakashi-sensei. He closed his eyes and relaxed as a smile appeared on his face. So that's your game, huh? Hello, Anko-chan. He greeted over his shoulder where she stood silently, with a kunai in hand. Yugao-sensei, into a tree where his second sensei dropped from. How do you always know where we are, Foxy-kun? Asked Anko, impressed. And how come only Anko gets a chan? Asked Yugao. I've always known when people were near me, since I was little. He answered honestly. And the chan? Asked an intrigued Yugao. It doesn't seem fair. You didn't threaten to do horrible things to me with a snake if I called you san. He answered blankly. Well, now you call us all chans or sensei gaki, spoke Anko, that way my friends aren't jealous. On a serious note, stated a lightly blushing Yugao, she may have been a little jealous. You say you feel people. Yeah, it used to help me hide from the mobs when I was little. I've gotten a little better at it. Naruto, are you a censor? Asked Yugao. She didn't want him to even think of those mobs. A what? He asked. They didn't cover that in class. Asked Anko, shocked. Censor Nin were the best trackers, even better than her clan, not that they'd admit it. That's something important. I thought they'd warn you about them. They probably did, he answered. It was probably one of those days they'd kick me out of class. How much have they neglected this kid? Where their collective thoughts, they needed to do their best to make it up to him. Naruto, I want you to do me a favor, spoke Anko. I want you to focus and tell me where the foxes are. Looking around, he saw that they were indeed gone. Relaxing his body, he felt, as far as he could. Raising his hand, he pointed in their direction. 10 meters that way, he answered correctly. Now they are moving toward us. They'll be here in 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just as he predicted, they came busting through the woods. The kunoichi gave a smile of understanding. Well, Gaki, you are a censor, Anko spoke, we'll try to train you in that as well. Truth be told, she didn't know what she was going to train him in. Impress us and we'll teach you a jutsu. Naruto, please make as many clones as you can. He did so without question. Soon the field was full of hundreds of Narutos, that is, a lot. I can make more if you want, he offered. He was proud of his clone skills. No, first thing we need to work on is your chakra control, stated Yugao. First thing we'll do is tree climbing. Focus your chakra to a certain point and maintain it as you take a step. I've come up with a way you can work on that, your reflexes, and entertain me, stated Anko sadistically. I don't like that entertain part, he stated fearfully. Where's this going, Anko-chan, and why do you have that smile? Why do you have that kunai? Dodge, she shouted at the top of her lungs. Throwing the kunai directly at him, she frowned. She threw it slow enough for him to dodge, but fast enough for him not to know she did. I have a reputation. However, all he did was let it hit him in the arm. If it had been the real one, he'd have a horrible gash. That's what she was talking, Naruto, stated Kurenai. Clone or not, you just took a kunai to the arm. I have a high pain tolerance, he stated. Naruto-kun, spoke a sad Yugao, we know about the villager. No need to hide anything, not from us. The villager would often gang up and beat Naruto until he was physically broken but never emotionally. His birthdays were the worst of them. Instead of beating, they would actually torture him. It had happened so frequently that only the birthdays were the ones that truly hurt. They stopped when he started his ninja training, but the damage was done. That is why we to kill two birds with one stone, spoke Yugao. Using your clones you can work on chakra control. What do my clones have to do with this? He asked. And what will I be doing? The kunoichi frowned at this. What has Kakashi been teaching him? They knew he was neglecting Naruto's training, but this was ridiculous. Your clone's knowledge will pass on to you, explained Yugao. You can train faster in anything but not strength, speed or reflex. It was how most Anbu trained. That was with 2, 3 or 4 clones. Naruto had much more. If a clone is destroyed, you won't be able to get stronger. Now, dodge. This time the clones dodged. Good, now I can begin having fun. Dodge. She is enjoying this a bit too much for my taste, he thought. They decided to train in another part of the field. It was difficult for Naruto to focus with Anko trying to kill him. Especially since she liked to aim for what made him a man. Every single time. It was a sad day to be a clone. They will do that while we work on a few beginner kenjutsu katas, spoke Yugao. Naruto, focus. I'm going to teach you the first katas to this style, she ordered. Pick up that katana and hold it like so. She held a ready stance but saw he was strained. Are you okay? She wanted him to get used to the type of weapon he'd be using and the dangers of self-harm from it. Unfortunately for Naruto, she wouldn't let him have a real one until he need it. Can I take off these weights? He asked. The strain is getting to me. He has been wearing them all day, she contemplated. No, she said after a minute of thinking. It's best you keep them on to build more speed and force in your blows, she reasoned. She had been expecting him to protest or even groan. She was proud to see him only set himself for practice. What determination. Okay, sensei, he answered. You can drop the weight a bit if it gets to be too much, she offered. If you master these series, I'll teach you a kenjutsu technique. With the promise of a jutsu, he was given new energy. She trained Naruto in a series of katas. He even made a few clone to watch himself to see his errors. There was a lot, but Yugao proudly stated that most came from his exhaustion mixed with weights. As the sun began to set, Naruto ended his chakra control and kenjutsu practice. Even though he hadn't mastered the series of katas, he made progress. He did, however, master the tree walking. You did good, just need to dispel the clones. Anko spoke. Hey clones. She called. As they turned to the source of the voice they blushed. They were greeted with the sight of Anko's bare chest. It took them a full 3 seconds to register it as they flew back in a massive nosebleed before dispelling. Unfortunately, the strain of hundreds of clones dispelling at once was too much. It caused him to pass out on the spot. He did, however, have a goofy smile and trail of blood flowing down his nose. Anko, that was too much, scolded Yugao. Are you trying to turn him into a pervert? Hey, with that much stamina I wouldn't mind. She answered truthfully, gaining a blush from her fellow kunoichi. Well, let's get him home, stated Yugao. He'll love the surprise he'll find when he wakes up. Well, maybe my gift, Anko. When Naruto awoke, he found he was in his apartment. He had an extra hour until team meeting began, then an extra 2 before Kakashi arrived. Deciding to get out of bed, he found slight difficulty. I must have trained harder than I thought. As he grabbed for the ramen in his cabinet, he felt something off. Where's all of my ramen? He found a note and 2 scrolls. Dear Gaki, stop eating ramen. It's why you're so short. Here's some dango sealed in the first scroll, just add chakra. You had better eat and love it. Also, don't even try that ramen stand. I paid them off not to sell to you for the week. P.S. You earned the second. PP's I doubled your weights. PPP's dodge. As soon as he read that last line, he tossed the scroll. No sooner than he did, a kunai flew out of it. It lodged itself into his wall. Sealing a kunai. I think she's trying to kill me. Wait. She doubled my weights. Reaching inside of the second scroll, he unraveled it. It was a jutsu and a small book. Sensor Nin and its mechanics. We found you a book on sensors at Daiki's shop. Shunshin. High-speed movement allows ninja to move short distance at near instantaneous speed. Enjoy. Forgetting all about his hunger, he headed toward his training ground. He wanted to impress his real senseis. Baka, why are you late? Cried a harpy. And what's with that smile? He wouldn't let them ruin his day. He would do his best to get through the day as fast as possible. I'm not late, Sakura. I beat Kakashi-sensei, he answered. Both were in shock. Not only had he said something logical, he hadn't called her Sakura-chan, like normally would. Deciding not to get involved with them, he chose to sit away from them. I have an hour until he arrives. It's a good time to work on being a censor. After 20 minutes of reading, he closed his eyes and allowed himself to relax. He skipped through straight to the how-to. As he focused, everything seemed to become more vivid than with his eyes open. He could feel every from his teammates to the insect crawling near him. He tried to extend it. The further away he went, the less vivid it became. It seems my range isn't far, but it's focused. After messing around with his abilities, he decided to read more and eat some of the dango Anko packed for him. She'd make me suffer if it went to waste. As the smell of fresh dango spread across the field, he felt his hunger kick in. At the first bite, he thought, not ramen, but a close second. He sat back in peace, enjoying the book and food. Hey Baka, give me one of those, howled a certain pink-haired monkey. And just like that, my piece is gone. No, he answered. He wasn't giving up anything given to him by one of his senseis. Not to any of them. What? She asked. She had just been denied something by Naruto. It was hard to believe. He's supposed to worship me. Yo, sorry I'm late. I got lost on the road. What are we learning today, sensei? Asked Naruto. He wasn't going to listen to another excuse. I can't teach you much until you increase your chakra control. Turning to his other students, Sasuke, I have a new technique for you. Sakura. I want to watch Sasuke-kun train. She stated. If you don't train Sakura, you'll be weak, stated Naruto. Who asked you? She screeched. I'll have Sasuke to save me and then we'll get married and. He just tuned her out. Can I be dismissed? He asked. Not even waiting for an answer, he walked off. He doubted any of them heard him. He wanted to get some real training done. Hello Hana-sensei, he said from his book. You can stop hiding, Kurenai-sensei. I knew you were there the minute you came into the field. Anko and Yugao warned us about that, stated Kurenai coming into view from her genjutsu. They never said it was so. Creepy, continued Hana as she walked into the field. If you want, I can stop it. He offered. No need, Kurenai stated. Now tell me, what genjutsu you know? Henge, he answered. And that's it. He finished. Sensei, can a person use genjutsu without hand seal? Yes, but you still need a medium, like your eyes are sound, and better control, and yours is. Kurenai looked for the kindest way to phrase it. Could you teach me? He asked to spare her. At least she cares enough to spare my feelings. I can only do a few myself, but maybe later. They then began the lesson. As it turned out, Hana had decided to teach Naruto's clones how to make storage seals. Kurenai did her best to teach Naruto some genjutsu. Naruto was in a bad mood. It had been 2 weeks and he couldn't learn his sensei's simplest genjutsu. His kenjutsu was going well. He didn't blame her. Far from it. Kurenai had spent hours trying to teach him and find the reason why he was having trouble. She had even given him low-level scrolls to practice. He blamed himself and the reason he couldn't learn. The fox. Since one needed balanced chakra to do genjutsu, he couldn't learn. His and the fox's chakra were always fighting. The only reason he could do henge was because control wasn't needed. His thoughts were focused on that so long he never noticed himself falling asleep. Mindscape. So, my jailer finally decides to show up. Stated a deep gruff voice. What do you want? I want answers, he shouted, shocking the giant fox. Why are you ruining my control? There was no fear in his question. There was plenty of anger in it, but no fear. That only enraged the fox. Rearing back, the fox let out a roar. It was enough to shake a village and knock people over. Naruto just stood and glared. Come closer, the fox ordered. Seeing no reason to fear the fox, he did so without hesitation. That enraged the fox as well. With the speed of, well, a demon, the fox stabbed the giant claws at Naruto. They never made it to him thanks to the bars stopping them, just inches from his face. Naruto hadn't so much as flinched at them. Damn you, boy. Came another roar. Fear me. I am the very stuff nightmares are made of. Why should I? The blonde asked. Just give me control of myself. And why should I? Enraged Call. You've always preached about hard work, so go with that. Why must you ruin everything in my life? He screamed. Well, know this, fox. He spat. I don't fear you and I want control so I can continue my training. Ah yes, your training, he commented in a tone Naruto didn't like. How very fox-like of you. What do you mean by that? Naruto asked. He was hating where this was going. Come now, genjutsu is fox domain, he stated, a sword for claws and you're already a trickster. Those are so I can get stronger, he stated, and they're happy to train me. How would you like even more help? The demon asked. Help in both of training and more. What are you getting at, fox? Naruto wasn't as dumb as he let on, he wouldn't be tricked so easily. Just a deal, between a host and his burden, Kyuubi commented, it could be beneficial for the both of us. I'm listening, he stated. The deal is simple. I give you the means to take your skills to a whole new level, the fox offered, for a price. How would you do that? His answer was simple. A bloodline. Seeing that he had the boy's attention, the fox continued, and give you a few needed modifications. What do you want? It was worth listening to. 3 things, the fox stated. The first, since you won't give me my freedom, I want access to your senses. The second, I want you to spread fear in my name. He roared before smiling cruelly. And finally, a little piece of your mind becoming mine. What? I could agree to the senses, but why would I spread fear in your name? He asked. It would give the villagers even more reason to hate me. It's not like they could hate you more than they do, the fox stated, and I doubt they'll even try to like you. Why do you want fear? It had been bugging him for a while. That goes back before I was even the Kyuubi, he spoke in a memory daze, back when I was just an average, larger than normal, but average fox. If you weren't born a demon, how did you become one? He interrupted. The fear, from the very beginning it was the fear that gave me my power. The bloody kitsune they called me. My reign of terror was legendary. Dozens of villagers would fall to my claws at a time until I was slain. It was then I became something worse, the stuff nightmares are made of. I became a demon. Since I was so feared, the fear brought me back as a demon and the fun really began. Then why do you need me? He asked. Can't you keep escaping death? Because of your fourth Hokage. The beast roared. After I was sealed, people thought I was dead and they lost fear. He continued. Being dead isn't a problem, but being forgotten, now that's a bitch. I can't come back if nobody fears me. I can't come back if nobody's afraid. That's why you need me. The blonde stated. Without fear you're nothing. Yes, I need you. That had to hurt. You've got the body, I've got the brain. Why do you mean some of my mind? Do you honestly believe you can be cruel enough? It seemed to be an honest question. Do you think you could get the amount of fear I need? The bloodline, what would it do? He asked, ignoring the question. The bloodline is called the Fox Glare. It has two abilities. The first, you can learn and use any genjutsu you know. The second is trapping a person inside a genjutsu domain controlled by you just by eye contact. Explained the demon. Through it you can either hold or break a long-lasting side effect. What is the drawback? He wasn't stupid. There was always a risk. You need to see the opponent, or the genjutsu will run wild. Kyuubi stated. If you use genjutsu, anyone around will be affected the same, such as pain by fire or drowning, unless you're focused. The fox wasn't finished. Anyone better at genjutsu or smarter or have a stronger will can defeat you at your own game. Taking a moment to think, it also can't be turned off or hidden through genjutsu, so good luck hiding it. Anything else? You can detect genjutsu but not break or copy it, the fox added. Those are your own skills. And the modifications would I receive? Enhanced. Everything with slight fox features. You blood will be a great cure for all ailments. Taking another minute to think, I will also train you in a few techniques so your body sensing skill will be taken to new levels. What's the catch to those? Increased levels of bloodlust and cruelty. Deal. Kyuubi wanted to chuckle but wasn't foolish. The fox knew that so much as smiling could ruin the deal. Tear off a tenth of the seal, the fox ordered, and prepare for pain. Doing so, Naruto experienced something he hadn't felt since his childhood. Pain. He felt pain coursing through every part of him. It seemed to be focused behind his eyes and in the center of his head. The fox's constant laughing wasn't helping. Damn, fox, he got out before the darkness claimed him. Real world. Jumping up, Naruto was sure he wasn't getting back to bed. Damn fox, well, I have an hour until team meeting. Getting out of bed, Naruto noticed that he felt as light as a feather. Guess I'll be increasing my weights again. He also noticed that he was at least a foot higher off the ground than usual. The changes. Walking toward his mirror, he eyed his reflection. His once sun-kissed blonde hair now carried traces of red highlights. His teeth were now razor-sharp, fang-like. His blue eyes were the same, but his pupil were now had slits. He couldn't help but give himself a few once-overs. I'll need some new. Daiki told me he would be finished today. He tried dressing in his now too small clothes. When that didn't work, he decided to change into his regular self. Since mine is real, they'll never notice. Reassured, he dressed and left. Leaf Dragon. Hey Naruto, greeted Daiki the usually. I wasn't expecting you until much later in the day. What are you doing here? Asked Naruto. Don't you have any employees to cover the night shift? Nope. I do everything, and using soldier pills I can keep going. He explained. Daiki, how many of those pills have you had? He asked. So I assume you're here for those clothes? He asked, ignoring the question. Yes, Naruto answered worriedly. Smiling sheepishly, Daiki grabbed one of his clothes. They were the standard black Anbu pants, a new pair of black, steel-toed combat boots. A crimson-red trench coat similar to Anko's with black flames licking the bottom and end of sleeves. In the center of the coat was a kanji. The kanji said kitsune, which stood for fox. The cloths even came with great features. Add chakra and they'll grow to any size, dry themselves and even keep the wearer warm. Great for extra chakra control. Daiki only blinked and the cloths were on the blonde. Naruto liked the clothes so much he brought several sets. Usually this would be out of his price range, but Daiki worked him a deal. If he purchased all of his ninja items from the Leaf Dragon, then everything was half off. Naruto, why do you have a henge on? Daiki asked, losing all humor. Deciding the gig was up, he dropped the disguise. The cloths instantly grew with him just as they were created. Quote, comma, quote. Quote, comma, quote. Well, the semi-blonde asked nervously, how do I look? Can't have the only useful shop hate me. Daiki stared at the now red highlighted blonde in front of him. His gaze was even and calculative. It made Naruto a bit uneasy as he stood there. You need something for the eyes, he spoke, to cover up their extra features. Have anything that can completely cut off my sight? He asked, relieved. I'm training in being a censor. Sure. Pulling a crimson cloth from somewhere, he handed it to Naruto. It's from the same material as your suit, created it just for you. Written on it was a kanji meaning mirage. As he tied the on cloth, he decided to explore until his sensei arrived. Maybe I'll go to an empty training ground. He continued around until he entered into a training ground. The area was littered with weapons and the posts were horribly beaten. He felt a powerful chakra signature and two weaker ones. It is most unyouthful to spy on my team. Came a voice from behind. Naruto acted on pure instinct. Turning, he threw a kick toward the source of the voice. It never connected because his leg was caught. The grip on his leg was like iron. That too is most unyouthful. The source of the voice was a kid wearing green spandex with orange leg warmers. He had an awful bowl cut and, good lord, are those his eyebrows? They looked like caterpillars. How did you get behind me? Naruto asked with, how come I couldn't sense your chakra? He felt out for it. I still can't feel it. He was even tempted to take the cloth off his eyes to see if he was there. Even if it were civilian level, one should feel it. Lee, what is going on? Asked an older looking version of the now dubbed Lee, have you brought another to the ways of youth? Not yet, Guy-sensei. He yelled, but if I cannot convert as many as you to the ways of youth, then I shall do 500 laps around the village backwards on my hands. Lee, my student, the older version yelled, your flames of youth glow brighter every day. Guy-sense. Lee. Guy-sense. Lee. Guy-sensei. Naruto didn't know what he was seeing. He didn't want to know. The two look-alikes were starting to hug, with his leg still in the middle. As they did, a horrible sunset began to form behind them. Why can't I dispel that thing? He didn't know how, but he had to get free. He saw only one option. Drawing a kunai, he prepared to saw through his own leg. Lee, Guy-sensei, came a feminine cry, you're about to make another person sever their limbs for freedom. They finally released his leg. Turning to his savior, he began to thank her. He never got the chance as he was stopped by a cold, arrogant voice. Who are you? He asked. Naruto Uzumaki, and you? I am Neji Hyuga. He gives off the same vibes as the Uchiha. This is my teammate Tenten. Thank you, Tenten, for saving me, he spoke, but they seem to be finishing, so I need to run. Wait, she called. This is a private area. What were you doing here? I just wanted a spot to train. He answered. Did someone say train? He noticed the two by seem motioning for him to say no. Yes. Then let us train. The lookalike shouted as one. I shall make you into a youthful shinobi and continue in my conquest for world youth. What have I gotten myself into? The blonde asked himself. Youth, my friend, spoke Lee quietly. Youth. Training for Naruto was hell. He wasn't able to keep up with Lee's speed, but he matched him in stamina. The others were very surprised to see it happen, especially when they found he wore weights. Tenten was able to help Naruto train with his kenjutsu. She kept an array of weapons, so he was always kept on guard. He bonded pretty well with all but the Hyuga. Naruto couldn't stand his arrogance. Putting on a henge and his blindfold, he headed toward his team meeting. They were already in progress, most likely never noticing his absence. When he made himself known, well, he wished he hadn't. Naruto Baka, where have you been? Howled a pink monkey, you're late. Naruto just ignored her, he was too tired. Practice with Guy was tough, what possessed me to schedule more with them? Naruto, where have you been? Asked Kakashi, and why do you have a blindfold around your eyes? It's for training. The blonde answered, not a complete lie. What kind of training? Asked the Uchiha. If it's useful, I should be the one learning it, not you. Deciding he wasn't going to deal with them, he turned to his teacher. I can believe he reads that stuff in front of us, we're minors. What are we learning today? The blonde asked. His answer was predictable. Since you missed another mission, we decided to do some teamwork. Hey, where are you going? To train. The blonde stated, but before that I feel the need for my oldest friend. Ramen and lots of it. Ichiraku ramen. Hey old man Tuki, Naruto called. Ayame-chan, Naruto needs his ramen. 15 bowls later and he felt better. There was one thing that was making it difficult to enjoy the food to its fullest. Actually, it was 3 things, 3 people. Konohamaru rocks aren't square, he stated, moving toward his next bowl of ramen. So you saw through our disguise. The rock spoke, I expect nothing less from my rival. At the end of the sentence, the rock went up in smoke. There was a lot of coughing and complaining from the one inside. Udon, Konohamaru shouted, you used too much powder. Hey, you wanted a big entrance, Udon countered. Naruto-kun, who are these kids? Asked Ayame. Seeing an opportunity for their entrance, they began posing. I'm Konohamaru, future Hokage. I'm Udon, I like math. I'm Moegi, the cutest girl in my class. And together, taking another pose, they spoke as one, we are the Konohamaru Corps. They waited for some type of response and they got it. It was clapping, from Ayame. Naruto had already turned back to his ramen. That's so cute, isn't it, Naruto? She asked. Not after seeing it every time I see them, he stated. Boss, can you teach us something please? Asked Konohamaru. Please. Sorry, but I have my own training. He stated. I see. Moegi, bring out the big guns. Konohamaru ordered. On command, Moegi was in front of Naruto, giving him the puppy eyes. He tried to resist, but they pulled him to look. They commanded him to obey. I'm wearing a blindfold. How am I affected? Fine. I'm sure those puppy eyes are some kind of jutsu. I guess I'll teach them what I learned. What will we learn? They asked as one. A jutsu, a secret skill, how to dodge. He stated. What? Udon asked. Drawing a kunai, he leaked out killer intent. He let a bloodthirsty aura fill the area. It was a small amount, but to fresh academy students it was Junin level. Dodge. The chase had begun. After running the kids back to class, much to their annoyance, he headed for his land. I think I'll surprise them with a page from Konohamaru, a flashy entrance. As he arrived, he decided to use his new abilities. Dropping the jutsu, he let his real appearance out. The kunoichi sat in patience, minus Anko, as they waited for Naruto to appear. They had all appeared today for various reasons we won't go into. It didn't usually take this long since he was punctual. Out of nowhere, a reddish blonde-headed guy appeared in the forest. He stood there as the kunoichi took guard. This is a private area, stated Hana. I know, he stated. Please leave, ordered Kurenai. No. The kunoichi were now ready to fight. They each took a position around the intruder, waiting for him to act. What do you want? Asked Anko. To meet some of the most powerful and beautiful kunoichi of Konoha, he answered. From there, it's anyone's bet. Who would they be? Asked Yugao, both upset at the compliment. Don't tell me he's a pervert. I'm looking at them. He spoke. Anko took the first opportunity to act. Drawing a kunai, she cut his cheek, allowing a bit of blood to flow. Compliments will get you everywhere. she stated, taking a lick at his blood. Wait a sec, Gaki. I shouldn't be surprised you've memorized my blood, Naruto stated, after the amount you've drained from me. What's with the new look? They asked. And were you flirting? I'd like to answer all questions, stated Naruto, say over dinner. Naruto, are you asking us on a date? Asked Kurenai, as in all four of us. Maybe. Realization fell into place. He was Naruto Uzumaki, pariah of the village. Why would they even consider dating him? Sorry. He spoke, it was a foolish idea. Naruto, you aren't a fool. Spoke Yugao. Yes, I am. I'm a no-name genin, he said, pointing to himself, and you are four of the elite kunoichi of the village. Pointing to said kunoichi. Naruto. To top it all off, I asked all four of you out, he ranted. That was a perverted thing to do. I don't want to be a pervert. Why would you want to date us? Asked Hannah. You all have been nice to me. He started. You're all amazing women. He continued. You're each skilled and proud but not the slightest bit arrogant. He thought for a moment, and my time with you all has been the happiest of my life. They could see that he was really upset about this. He seemed to want a genuine relationship with them. Not just a mindless pervert. They then shared a look. It was one of those looks women get when they're somehow having a conversation. You men know the one. They nodded their heads as if reaching an agreement. Naruto, you aren't a fool, Hannah stated. Yes, I am, he countered, a demonically enhanced fool. Naruto. Yugao snapped. You are not a fool, do you know why? Number. Because my mother told me never to kiss a fool. She shouted. Grabbing Naruto by the back of his head, she pulled him forward. Their lips locked and Naruto felt absolute bliss. The world seemed to pause as he enjoyed the kiss. All too soon it came to an end. We each expect a reinforced clone to pick us up tomorrow by 8 to show us a wonderful night. Stated Kurenai. Remember Gaki, we each have different tastes on what we believe is a perfect date. Warned Anko. Dress casually, he spoke, until then my Himes, gaining a blush from said, Himes. Naruto was nervous. He was going on the first date of his life, and it was with 4 women. Most men in his position would be boasting, he however wasn't most men, he stayed silent. He had taken the day off of training from his team in the kunoichi. There were a lot of things for him to do for his date. Not that he neglected his training. He sent multiple clones out to practice. Some in genjutsu with the scrolls Kurenai left. Some in the katas Yugao had showed him. Find something for each kunoichi to enjoy. Find places where he wasn't hated. Find out how to act on a date. Get advice on what to do for the date. I need serious help. Advice. Who can I go to? Should I ask the Ichiraku family? No. How about the old man Hokage? No. He's a pervert, I've seen those books. There's always Iruka sensei. 10 minutes later and he was in front of his old academy. It seemed his teacher was giving a lecture. Oh, how I hated those. Deciding to spare the kids the pain he went through, he entered. Hey Iruka sensei, I need your advice. He called. Naruto. He asked, shocked. I'd love to help you but I'm a bit busy with class. He looked at the class of children. They were either sleeping from the lecture of talking. Deciding to be honest to his teacher, he said, Sensei, you've lost them. Just tell me what you need. He said, annoyed, why does nobody like my lectures? Dragging his former teacher outside, he said, I need dating advice. Now Iruka had to admit that he was shocked. It didn't mean he would show it. He was after all both a ninja and a teacher. What do you need to know? He asked. Not even taking a minute to think, Naruto simply said, everything. Flowers. Yamanaka flower shop. Hello. Greeted Ino. Welcome to the Yam, Naruto. What are you doing here, Baka? He did his best to ignore the insult. I'm here to buy flowers for my date, he stated. I'd like to make a good first impression. Who would go on a date with you? She asked. I bet you just annoyed Sakura until she said yes. I am not going on a date with Sakura, he stated. He really didn't want to deal with a fangirl. I just want to buy some flowers and leave. Fine, she sneered. What do you want? I want 4 bouquets, each mixed with red and black, pink, orange, and white. One for Anko, Kurenai, Hana and Yugao. Great, now I have to tell you what they mean, she sighed annoyed. You probably just chose them for looks anyway. I know what they mean: red love, black the beginning of new things, when not death, pink elegance and refinement, orange warm vibrant tones, white humility and innocence. Ino was in shock. Not only had Naruto of all people picked out flowers, but he actually knew what they meant. How does someone like you know what they mean? She asked. Can I have my flowers? He asked, ignoring the question. Why would you need 4? She asked. Are you cheating on somebody? You are, aren't you? She accused. Probably some poor civilians who you lied to and said you did all the stuff Sasuke-kun did. How is Sasuke-kun? Has he mentioned me? Enough. He roared. I'm not cheating on anybody, he stated. I just want to buy my flowers for my dates. If you want to talk about the Uchiha, then find Haruno. Baka. She shouted. You should treat me with respect. I'm heiress to the Yamanaka clan and I don't have to sell you anything. She stated, but wasn't finished. And you are just a nobody. What is going on here? Asked a new voice. Ino and Naruto looked toward the source of the voice. It was Inoichi Yamanaka, Ino's father. He had been watching from the beginning. Your daughter refuses to sell to me, stated Naruto. He knew Inoichi had been watching, and she constantly insults me. But he's a nobody. She stated, trying to defend himself. And what are we Yamanakas without the Nara and Akamichi clan? He asked. I apologize for my daughter, the flowers are free. Not wanting to wait a second longer, Naruto grabbed his flowers and left. He had 4 different dates to prepare for. Remember everything Iruka-sensei told you and you'll define. Who does that Baka think he is? Seethed Ino, getting me in trouble with daddy. I'm going to make him pay. Okay Naruto, you can do this. He repeatedly chanted in his head. I just have to show them a good time. Stealing his resolve, he knocked on the door and Anko. Hello hubby Haim, he greeted, getting a blush from Anko. I brought flowers. Hello Foxy-kun, greeted Anko as she took the flowers. Well, come in and we can get down to business. Down to business? He asked. What do you mean? Well, what do you think men and women do? She asked with a perverted leer. Naruto's face put a tomato to shame. Anko-chan, I don't think I'm old enough for that. There is a motto many shinobi live by. She spoke in, old enough to kill, then you're old enough to drink and have. We're not well enough into a relationship for that. He tried. Anko saw that he honestly wasn't in this for the. He wants to just have a relationship. I guess I'll throw him a bone. Fine, she spoke, but if we're going anywhere I want you to drop the henge. He did so happily, it made him feel accepted. What will we be doing? She was honestly curious. There's a place my former sensei recommended, he answered. It's supposed to be non-biased for us as well, he said, referring to her problem as well as his. Did they have dango? If they didn't, there would be trouble. And red bean soup, he added. Well, what are we waiting for? She grabbed him and literally started dragging him. Which way is it? Grabbing her arm, he shunshined them to the location he was given. When they arrived, it looked like a bar mixed with a diner. It seemed to be a decent place on the outside, however there were very few people around. Fire in the hole, came a shout from inside. No sooner had that been said, a man ran out through the entrance. What the? He never finished. The whole building started to light up, before coming down in a fiery explosion. Hey, what are you doing here? Asked another voice. This area is closed for demolition. Looking around, Naruto became aware of the signs. Well, Gaki, teased Anko, what do you have planned? He took a minute to think but came up empty-handed. I've got nothing, he admitted. I do, spoke Anko giddily, a little too giddily for Naruto. Grabbing her date, she took him a few blocks from their location. When they arrived, they were surrounded by unfriendly-looking people. They didn't seem to pay much attention to them, but the few that did just glared and looked away. Anko, he asked. Where are we? This is a place I go to celebrate after a mission. She spoke. As they walked inside a shady-looking pub, Naruto knew he was in for a wild night. Anko was greeted by several people as they made their way toward the bar. They took a seat and waited for the bartender to notice them. "Hey Anko," the bartender greeted, "what can I get you?" "Two of the usual," she ordered, "but make his a small." She pointed toward Naruto. He was tempted to say he would take the same as her until he saw what it was. It was a drink, that much was obvious. Anko quickly snatched hers and started downing it. A second later it was half gone. Taking a pause, she let out a large belch. Naruto eyed his. It looked to be mostly foam. Taking a single, but large, sip, he tasted it. It didn't stay long before he swallowed it all. "It doesn't taste half bad." He quickly downed the rest. "We got ourselves a natural," laughed the bartender as he handed out a refill. 5 minutes later they were having a drinking contest. Anko was impressed. Naruto was able to hold his liquor. "I should take him out more." Another 10 minutes later they lost count. Naruto wasn't drunk, but the same couldn't be said for Anko. Hey Naru-chan, cooed Anko, "how about we go back to my place and become much closer?" "Sorry Anko, but you're drunk," he said. "I'm going to have to take you home." "Ah, but I want my Foxy-kun," she whined. Truthfully, she wasn't completely drunk, she just wanted to know what he would do. "Please. When you're sober," he reasoned. Unfortunately for Naruto, Anko knew a sobering jutsu. After fumbling through a series of hand signs, she was back to normal. "There, I'm sober," she stated. "Let's go." Wait, you tricked me," he accused, gaining a laugh from Anko and the bartender. "Hey, if you don't want her, we'll happily take her off your hands," came a new gruff voice. Turning to the source, Naruto and Anko were greeted by an awful sight. There were 3 men, all dressed like thugs. They had made a small circle around Naruto and Anko. They constantly gave Anko lusty looks and Naruto glares. "Sorry pal, but she's my date for the evening." He spoke coldly. "I hope you 3 understand." "I hope you understand, brat," the apparent leader sneered, "that we don't care if she was with the Hokage." Naruto was about to tell them to leave when he saw Anko smile. She has that look on her face. It usually ends up with pain. "Hey Naruto, do you know what would make this evening perfect?" she asked as her smile grew. "No." Naruto noticed the bartender lower himself out of sight. "What would?" Taking a sharp kunai, her smile grew. As fast as a ninja, she drove the kunai deep into the shoulder of a stranger. She then tossed the bloodied weapon into the hands of the leader of the trio. The stranger stood and looked toward the couple, then the trio. He spotted the weapon and stood to full height. This guy has to be 7 feet tall. Letting out a war cry, he dived toward the trio. Bar fight. 20 minutes later, Anko and Naruto were the only ones standing. Even the bartender had jumped in at some point. Anko was happy, exhausted but happy. She got to drink, fight, and even eat some poor sap's food for free. He shouldn't have gotten knocked out so soon, she stated. Naruto wanted to remind her that she was the one that knocked him out but decided against it. The worst part was she sodomized several innocent people with her snakes. "Let me get you home, Benihime," stated Naruto. They reached her apartment a minute later through Shunshin. They stood there for a full minute. They stared at each other, or in Naruto's case felt her chakra. Deciding not to wait any longer, Anko made the first move. Leaning forward, she gave him a chase kiss. It felt wonderful to Naruto, no matter how short it was. "I had a wonderful evening, Naruto-kun," she stated. "I hope we can do this again soon." She hinted. "So do I," he admitted as she opened her door. He turned to leave but was stopped by a large snake coiled around him. "Come in, Naruto," she ordered while licking a kunai in hand. How can I say no?" He nervously laughed. Hana. At Hana's home, he was greeted by Hana's mother. "Hello, you must be the pups dated, Naruto," spoke Hana's mother. "Hana will be down soon." "Hello, Ms. Sum-san," he greeted. "No need for formalities, Naruto-kun," spoke Hana, descending the stairs. "My mother hates them as much as you." "Hello, Inuheim," he greeted, gaining a blush, handing her the flowers. I have these for you. Do you know what they mean, pup? Sume asked, looking at the colors, gaining a nod from Naruto. Have a good time, pup. Sume, before taking a teasing tone, have her back before 10 and don't let me know if you're in the house. Mother. Sume wasn't finished. Don't forget, I want grand pups. Grabbing Naruto by the hand, she dragged him out. Once they arrived at the destination, Naruto dropped his disguise. They were in an open field on top of the Hokage monument. In the field was a blanket and picnic basket. Inside, Hana could smell a lot of delicious items. It was making her appetite grow. Let's see, started Hana. Outside with a beautiful view, delicious food. You did your homework on Inuzuka women, Naruto-kun. I tried my best, he said. Sukune, he offered. They were Hana's favorite. She was even more impressed when she found he had made them himself. They sat and ate in silence. It was a comfortable silence, but still silent. Hana decided to break it. Naruto-kun, she called, gaining his attention. Where are we? The Hokage monument. He too was glad the silence was broken. This was my first comfort spot, he stated. I still come here to think. Why did we come here instead of your field? Look up, he answered. They sit in the vastness that we know nothing about. They hide from us in the day while staying in plain sight. She saw what he meant. The stars. They're beautiful, she whispered. Yeah, you are, he whispered, thinking she hadn't heard. She did. Naruto, see, can I touch your whiskers? She cautiously asked. Naruto visibly tensed at the request. He didn't let many people touch his whiskers, and the ones he did were rarely. To Naruto, that was a very intimate thing. As he thought the request over and over in silence, Hana mistook that as a no. Sorry, I asked. She apologized. Realizing he had been silent too long, he apologized. No, you can touch them, she assured her. It's just, they are a very sensitive part of me. Really? She knew it was like someone touching the family tattoo on her cheeks. Reaching slowly, she rubbed him. What happened completely shocked her. He purred. Oh, my gosh. She mentally squealed, that is so cute. She couldn't contain herself. She playfully tackled him to the ground, knocking his blindfold off. It seemed like she was pinning him, but was in fact hugging him. To her even greater surprise, he flipped her over and pinned her. When she looked him in the eyes, she saw that they were innocent and playful. Like a young pup, or young kit. Sorry, Naruto, but I like being top. They repeated the process over several times. It wasn't long before they were running and chasing each other on all fours. They looked like a fox and a dog playing. It felt great for Hana. She felt like a child again, not a soldier. She wished it could last forever. But all great things must come to an end. I hope you enjoyed yourself, Inuheim, spoke Naruto as they approached her home. I did, Naruto-kun, she said. I felt like a pup again. She admitted, blushing. She then stared at Naruto. How would you like to come in? It was Naruto's turn to blush. He quickly recomposed himself. He leaned in to kiss her and turned to leave. He didn't get far. In front of him were the triplets, growling fiercely at him. They seemed to have surrounded him. The center triplet stepped forward and pointed his paw toward Hana. I think I'll take you up on that offer, Hana-chan. He stated, but could you call off the triplets? Yugao. Hello, Uzuheim, he greeted as he handed her the flowers. Hello, Naruto-kun, she returned. They are beautiful, so where are we going? Well, I know how you're tired after Anbu and rarely relax, he spoke, and she admitted it was all true. So I've planned for a smooth and calm evening for you. Naruto held to his word. He had taken her to see the latest, Princess Gale, movie. It was a few days after airing, so it was relatively empty. They watched in peace. Yugao was impressed when Naruto made no attempts to feel her up. He simply let her watch in peace. Once the movie had finished, they had taken a stroll through an abandoned park. I've got to admit, Naruto-kun, she started, this simple evening has been amazing. Deciding to take a break, they sat on a bench. He noticed that Yugao would constantly rub her shoulders. Are you okay? he asked. Yugao smiled at his concern. Yes, just a little stiff. I could give you a shoulder rub, he offered, if you don't mind. If you do, I totally understand. She thought the offer over in her head. He seems to want to help. He hasn't made any perverted attempts. I'll trust him. Sure, she answered. Turning so that she wasn't facing him, they began. He started by giving gentle rubs and kneads. These earned groans of pleasure from Yugao. With these encouragements, he added a bit of pressure and the groans grew louder. Naruto, would you mind adding a little chakra? She requested. I don't mind, but my chakra isn't good, he offered. My chakra destroys while my blood heals. Oh, she had forgotten about the fox. I could use that, he offered. Why, your blood? Yes, but, he trailed off. But what? You'll need to take off your shirt. He flinched and brought his hands up for defense. Not the face. Relax, I'm not going to hit you, Naruto, she assured him. I've already taken my shirt off. When did you? He asks. Why, you're wearing a blindfold, she explained. As long as it stays on, then I know you aren't a pervert. Don't worry, he promised, it'll stay on. Pulling out a kunai, he made a small but deep cut on each hand. He let the blood fill his hand before the wound healed. They close faster now. Began to rub around where she felt the tensest. The groans increased further as the blood healed the pain. Naruto-kun, called Yugao. Yes, he asked. Instead of answering, she simply turned toward him. Because of the blindfold, he wasn't aware of the expression on her face. Leaning forward, she gave him a deep kiss. It was a complete surprise to Naruto, but he loved it. Before he knew it, she had knocked him to the ground. Removed his blindfold, and some of their clothes. Yugao-chan, he gasped, you're moving a bit too fast. Shish shish shish, she shushed him. But Yugao, she silenced him by drawing a kunai. And slamming down. Beside his head, she drew a second one. You were saying? She asked. Nothing. Kurenai. Hello Benihime, he greeted, handing the flowers over. Hell Naruto-kun, she greeted with a smile. What have you planned? I was thinking a nice dinner, he stated. There is a place that makes great seafood. Taking his arm, they shunshined away. They appeared in front of a small, casual restaurant. Hello, I'd like a table for two, requested Naruto. Table for one coming right up. The greeter spoke with a sneer. If you would please follow me, miss. I think you misheard him, spoke Kurenai. He said a table for two, she spoke with emphasis. I'm sorry, miss, but we don't serve. He seemed to think of a right word, that. He pointed as if accusing, it would be bad for business. I see, spoke Naruto. Time to gather my first bit of fear. Removing his blindfold, he allowed his new eyes to be seen. Seeing the fear in the greeter, he decided to take it up a bit. He allowed his henge to unravel, slowly for added affect. He gave his best feral smile. It would have made Anko proud. Now about that table, he stated coldly. Tea table for two, coming up. They were quickly seated and abandoned by the greeter. The waiter, after seeing the look, took their orders and disappeared. As he attempted to reapply his disguise, but was stopped. I want the real you, she stated. It was not a request. What do we have here? Came a new voice. Turning to the source, they saw Asuma Sarutobi, son of Hiruzen Sarutobi. Hello Asuma-ku-san, she quickly corrected. Naruto, this is my friend Asuma, she said, getting a raised eyebrow from Asuma. Nice to meet you, Naruto, he greeted, ignoring Naruto's appearance. You don't mind if I join you, do you? No. Great, he said, pulling up a chair before either could answer. It's not as if this is a date, is it? Actually, it is, corrected Kurenai. What? Asuma was in total shock. But he. Later, Asuma, stated Kurenai fiercely, we'd like to enjoy our date. She really hoped he caught the hint. He didn't. How did you two meet? He asked. I'm trying to teach him a bit on genjutsu, she answered. Genjutsu, huh? He thought on it. Wouldn't you prefer ninjutsu? Or even taijutsu? It seemed reasonable with all the chakra and stamina Naruto was said to possess. It was well known from his prank sprees. Actually, I've seen how useful genjutsu is firsthand, stated Naruto. For taijutsu, a blade can do a lot more than a punch. I understand the blade part, I use them myself, agreed Asuma, but you usually can't use genjutsu in combat without support, time or focus. Reasoned Asuma, but genjutsu can usually be easily broken in multiple ways. Yes, but you also can't use a ninjutsu because of allies, surroundings and even bystanders. Countered Naruto. Also, if the genjutsu is strong enough or the wielder is skilled enough, then those things are unimportant. True, but Kurenai was upset that Asuma was ridiculing genjutsu, her specialty. She was happy that Naruto was defending the art. As she watched the arguments continue, their food arrived, as did Asuma's. When did he order? Asuma then began to light a cigarette. This seemed to irritate Kurenai, which in turn irritated Naruto. If Asuma noticed their expressions, he happily ignored it. Could you please not light that here? Asked Naruto. Asuma took a light look around before speaking. Don't worry, he said, there are no smoking signs. This irritated both Kurenai and Naruto further. Okay, how about this? Tried Naruto, let's make a deal. What kind? If I can prove, right here right now, that genjutsu is just as useful as ninjutsu, he thought, then you pay for our dinner. Deal, he agreed, and if not, you pay for my steak and rice. Maggots, stated Naruto. Fear, here I come. What? Asked Asuma confused. He didn't like Naruto's smile. Is there something squirming in my mouth? You're eating maggots. Asuma looked down at his food. There on his plate were maggots squirming on his food. The food itself looked rancid and had a mixture of various trashes. Realizing what the squirming in his mouth was, he began to vomit. He wasn't able to continue emptying his stomach. It was as if his very mouth had been sealed shut. It didn't stop the puke from filling up. Looking toward Naruto, he saw a deformed face. It seemed to be a meld of a fox and a man. The shock was too much for him. Jumping from his seat, he saw that the seat was empty. All of the seats were empty. He did hear a chuckling and felt a piercing sensation in his back. Turning, he saw that it was Naruto. He was holding a kunai that he had lodged deep into Asuma. He continued to twist the blade, drawing out the agony in the junin. Naruto then raised his hand and made to punch Asuma in the face. Attempting to block, Asuma raised his arms. He never felt the blow come. Opening his eyes, he saw that he was still sitting at the table. Naruto was giving an attempted, and failed, innocent look. Kurenai only sat back with a smug expression on her face. What was that about genjutsu, Asuma? She asked. Also, all have you know we changed our orders. She chuckled. It wasn't cheap. How did he do that? He asked. I never even saw him weave any hand signs. He looked at them before her words sunk in. When did you two order and eat? I was out for only a few seconds. There weren't any hand signs. Naruto admitted, and with genjutsu time becomes irrelevant. That kind of genjutsu takes years of experience. Asuma shouted. Or just a great teacher. Countered Naruto. Kurenai blushed at the compliment. I had a student that was as very eager to learn. Their eyes met and they shared a blush. Kurenai felt like a girl on her first date. Naruto was a boy on his first date. A deal is a deal, Asuma admitted before reaching around his pockets. Oh dear, it seems I've forgotten my wallet. He spoke, trying to be sly. Well, that's too bad for you, spoke Naruto with a smile, because we've already left. With that, both Kurenai and Naruto faded out of reality. Sir, I was told to give you the bill for your companions, spoke the waiter. Looking at the bill, Asuma felt his heart stop. She wasn't kidding when she said it wasn't cheap. He looked at his cigarette. If I smoke my whole pack, now will it kill me and keep me from paying? There is only one way to find out. Somewhere in some park, Kurenai and Naruto were sharing a laughing fit. When they regained control of themselves, they began walking toward her apartment. Oh Naruto-kun, that was truly hilarious, she spoke. Where did you learn to do that? I used what you tried to teach me in those scrolls, he explained. I then added a little change. Well, it was amazing. She stated, you taught him not to underestimate genjutsu, and I'm sorry he ruined our evening. I'm sorry that he ruined our date, stated Naruto in a sadder tone. It's okay, she assured. Honestly. Well, I'd feel much better if I could make it up to you, he stated. I know, look that way. He gestured toward the sky. Looking in the direction, she saw something that truly amazed her. A sunset. She watched as the village was illuminated by the setting fireball. It was as if the sun was trapped in a state of orange and crimson perfection. He did this, for me, she thought to herself in amazement. The raw beauty was overwhelming. Kurenai couldn't stop the single tear that escaped from her eye. And like that, it was gone. Sorry, I couldn't hold it any longer, panted Naruto. I need more practice. He then saw her tear-stricken face. Oh no, Kurenai-chan, what's wrong? She looked at him and smiled. He really cares, she thought. Nothing is wrong, Naruto-kun. She assured him. I didn't mean to make you cry. He was cut off by a finger to the lip. Kurenai then leaned in and gave him a chaste kiss. She then deepened it as their tongues fought for supremacy. And like the genjutsu, it came to an end all too quickly. Naruto-kun, she asked, would you like to come in for some coffee? Now Naruto wasn't the smartest, but even he knew what she meant. There would be no coffee if he entered. I'm not a coffee per. He stopped at the scene in front of him. Kurenai was staring blankly at him, as if dead. Her hair seemed to be moving on its own. The shadows seemed to crawl around her. This all made her crimson eyes all the more vivid. Naruto-kun, she stated coldly, I'm sure you will love some of my coffee. See, coffee sounds great, he spoke. Next day, Anko. Morning, Naruto-kun, greeted Anko as she watched Naruto awake only seconds after her. How are you this morning? I'm fine, hubby. And you? He asked. Good, but she trailed off. But what? Naruto asked. There is something I want to try, she explained, and so far no man has wanted to even give it a try. Well, what is it? He asked. I'll prove I'm not like other men, he stated. Oh, you have Foxy-kun, she admitted, again and again and again. She snickered, but what I want to try is a jutsu for what we've been doing. Sure. He was open for more of last night. Great. She squealed in joy. Trouser snake jutsu, I should not have to explain this. Naruto proceeded to stare at Anko. He then made a dash for the front door. Unfortunately, it was blocked by a mass of snakes. The front was blocked and behind was Anko. Only one option left. He jumped out the window. They always SSS run, one of Anko's snakes spoke. Yeah. Guess I'll go see how the other dates went. Hana, I'll be getting those grand pups in no time, thought Sum before noticing the silence. They finally stopped. Finally, cried several members of the family. As the people laid themselves down to sleep, they felt bliss. Time for some well-deserved rest before work. Ring, ring, ring. The alarm clocks went off. It was time to begin another day of work. Several of the family members began to cry. All they wanted was to get some sleep. As Naruto and Hana stepped out of Hana's room, they were greeted by several faces. Sum, who was looking at Naruto and Hana in great interest. Kiba, who eyed them both in disbelief. Several Inuzuka men in envy. Several Inuzuka women in jealousy. Sum spoke first. I want to name some of the grand pups. Dobi, shouted Kiba. What are you doing here? He looked at Hana, and with my sister. Hey, don't blame me, spoke Naruto, blame the triplets, they forced me to stay. The triplets themselves were regretting their actions. They, like all present, didn't get any sleep. Sika Makumaru, ordered Kiba. Okay, I can't fight him because he's Hana's brother. What can I do? Naruto did what any man would do when faced with his predicament. He ran like the devil was after him. Get back here, Uzumaki, roared Kiba, you'll pay for defiling my sister and keeping the clan up all night. I guess I'll go meet the girls, thought Hana. Yugao. When Naruto awoke, he noticed that he was in an empty bed. When did we leave the park? There was, however, a note and a scroll. Dear Naruto-kun, have Anbu meeting then meeting with the girls. Feel free to raid fridge then practice katas in scroll. Yugao. P. S from Anko. No, 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 no. Dodge. Kurenai. Kurenai awoke to an empty bed. She looked around the room and saw that his cloths were gone as well. She felt a great pain in her heart. No, he's just like the rest. The tears of the betrayal she felt just fell. Kurenai-chan, you awake? Asked Naruto from nowhere. I made breakfast. He noticed her teary face. Is everything okay? Yes, Naruto-kun, she answered quickly, but I can't eat. I have to meet the girls. I can't believe I doubted him. Girls. They headed to their usual meeting spot. When they arrived, they noticed that each of them had a certain glow. It was one they themselves were familiar with, and were experiencing. They each pointed a finger at another and shouted, "You slept with Naruto-kun," they accused of each other. They eyed each other before breaking. Those hands, spoke Yugao. That body, spoke Kurenai. That size, spoke Anko. That stamina, spoke Hana. That tongue, they spoke as one. They then sat around each other as they each recounted their dates with Naruto. Each kunoichi began going into their more graphic night activities, which happened to go early into the morning. They were interrupted by a cough, 3 to be exact. Hello girls, spoke Hayate eyeing Yugao. We were just wondering why you were sleeping with Naruto, continued Uruka toward Anko. When you are supposed to be, Asuma to Kurenai. Dating us. They finished as one. We can explain.